people. Today we're doing one of the most important and quite possibly one of the best anime movies, Ghost in the Shell. With me today I have Radu and Zachary. The first scene, actually it's very important. They say that there is some sort of static in Major's ghost, which is some sort of a half metaphysical soul concept that isn't clearly defined. Basically she says that she's on her period, even though we later on learn that she's a cyborg, doesn't have any of her original body. And with that, there's an important piece to building her character, which is that she is thinking of herself as a woman still.
We are led to believe that this happens 1 year before the actual plot starts happening. Plot-wise, this refers to the Puppet Master's dealings.
Yes, it's basically they're trying to smuggle him or something.
We can assume that the Puppet Master came to know Motoko around this time. And so you saying that she still identifies herself as a woman is prevalent in supporting whatever form of attraction the Puppet Master has towards her. So this scene definitely comes into play with replay value. Other than that, it's definitely set up the tone.
Yeah, you gain a good feeling of how vast the setting is. You know, when she falls down, the skyscraper is huge, and you see that there is some major stuff going on.
And I suppose one good thing is the fact that whenever someone talks, it's just enough to get the point across. Everything else is just left to the visuals. We can feel the weight of the setting. One of the finer accomplishments of this movie. We get to breathe in the movie, then have everything explained to us, wink wink Orabuchi, namely Psycho-Pass.
Of course, here there's just the imagery that speaks for everything. You see things that you need to see. For example, they're not gonna be saying, oh, well, here, you have a cloaking technology, and you have a big gun that can shoot people. She just shoots people and goes to stealth mode. That's it, you know.
And that show, he needed to have a stupid main character in order for everyone to excuse themselves to explain everything to her as if she was born yesterday, which ruins the immersion in that kind of dark, depressing world. Here, it just, hey, I'm late. Bato, can you catch me up? And that's it. That's it. That's all it took. I don't get how he can't do that. It's like, it's not that hard.
I mean, it is, because you don't have many anime or books with exposition this masterfully done, but it can certainly be done better than in Psycho-Pass, where you are given the same information 2 times in awful infodump exposition.
We have some byplay, and at this point we think the Puppet Master is a single normal entity, a hacker, and hacking is a common technique to perform crimes. It's a petty crime at this point. So again, no third character saying, geez, this is so much more sophisticated than back in the 90s or something. The scene pretty much ends with them having their first clue involving the garbage truck.
They catch both people who the Puppet Master has hacked. The garbage truck driver, who was hacked into thinking that he has a family, even though he is something like a guy who has a very simple manual labor job, and the other doesn't remember anything. You get the feeling of how ominous the Puppet Master is. He's basically changing people and ruining their lives.
Basically, you can control anybody by hacking into them. It's not just hacking anymore. It's not like you're stealing something. This is like killing someone. If someone loses his identity, he's basically dead.
It reduces humanity further down, at least our understanding of it. So
also, there's a lot of action. There's a chase scene, there's fighting, there's everything, and it's very masterfully done. It looks great. Even though it's in 1995, it still looks awesome.
This whole entire plot, you could call this a red herring. Knowing how this movie ends, we can tell that the Puppet Master was deliberately reaching out to Motoko, trying to basically learn how she feels about the commonplace world. You know, this is all just part of a bigger test.
Okay, the next scene on a boat. They're talking about how you define a human. You as a human have your face, you have your voice, you have your body constitution alongside of your consciousness. Following that scene, there is one shot where you see a woman who looks exactly the same as Major. She's in the same body. So people have lost their identity. They can no longer, by any means, identify themselves with their bodies. I mean, outside of the bodies being cybernetic military equipment. The Major feels very disconnected. She's starting to doubt her own existence and trying to find a way to give meaning and to prove that she actually exists, that she's not a copy of some person who has died. And I also want to point out the Major never blinks. That's the thing that adds to her feeling almost inhuman. Has no sort of shame. She's walking around naked and Bato is turning around and she doesn't care. He respects her body, even though it is only a cybernetic one, but she doesn't respect it herself. Her colleague is a guy who takes things as they are. He won't delve into metaphysics or anything. I am a cyborg, so what? I still exist, I am who I am. There is no point in discussing it further on because there is no conclusion to be had.
Yeah, I don't have much to say.
What, you don't have any thoughts about the scene?
No, not really. It is what it is.
It is preachy, and of course, there's nothing wrong with being preachy from time to time, but it's handled in a way that you can feel that it actually makes sense. The Puppet Master allows himself to be caught. We see some guys from Section 6. One of the guys splits his fingers into something like 30 little fingers and is just typing like crazy and processing information. So it feels very inhuman in the way he does it. Cybernetics do a lot of things for people, sometimes turn into something that really looks monstrous. Back to the Puppet Master, tells them that he seeks asylum. He's trying to give a definition of a living sentient being, and it's just one of those things where you can't have a proper explanation, especially since everybody has been devoid of their organic existence and has only given a almost fake cybernetic one. Huge questions, which you sort of know what they are, but you can't give a firm answer to.
The way that he defines himself up to this point is extremely abstract and open-ended. He says that he is a collection of information and that he is born from it. This is foreshadowing, or at the very least alluding to the beginning of his existence, the fact he was just a program that was supposed to be used for Section 6, and that Section 6 is trying their best to make him be just that still. It still goes in line with the fact that he defines himself as something more and that cannot return. He is trying to gain their empathy. He is not showing any direct animosity. He does not directly hurt anyone.
Or at least not in this scene.
At least not in this scene, yeah. Before, with the other two hackings, he was merely trying to reach out to another voice.
It's a very good thing. He's not a typical antagonist as an evil figure.
He's more shades of gray like every other character.
Yeah.
Urobuchi's answer to this kind of antithesis was to have in Psycho-Pass a villain immune to the entire system, which didn't really say anything about the science fiction concept. It just was basically saying, hey, there's a glitch in the system. Big whoop. Here, it just goes in line with more of what Motoko is talking about what the world is facing, Sophistication versus mental deterioration. Anyway, so then we have Togusa doing some investigations.
He's the only human in the secret operation, whatever it's called.
Section 9?
Yeah, and there's also a reason for why Togusa is in their team, since being a human makes him basically extremely
resilient.
No superpowers, no nothing,
Mm-hmm.
So, but there is an explanation for that.
Overspecialization leads to extinction, as they put it in the movie.
Yeah.
He isn't overspecialized, he's very down-to-the-ground regular.
He adds his own perspective to the mission, where if it was just a bunch of disposable bodies on the team, they would miss another portion to handling the scenario, which Togusa can fulfill by himself. And he's not a useless character by any means. And he actually uses his human form rather craftily. He has a very dated pistol, and uses his own human body to not let them shoot him, because they could have killed him, or at the very least disabled him if they wanted to, but he uses his direct vulnerability to plant a bug. To them, he could have just an average cop who doesn't know what the heck he's doing. It was crafty.
Section 6 stills back the Puppet Master. They are running away with him. They're just trying to catch them. We see some great action. There's a car in which the Puppet Master is, and there's a tank guarding it, and she tries to fight it. She fails. Bato saves her. She connects to the Puppet Master. Then there's the big sort of answer to her personal existential questions. There's a very neat element where the tank shoots across a tree of life. Homo sapiens is on top. Yeah, it just wrecks the whole thing. All the characters here are not Homo sapiens, and some are not even human. It kind of wrecks the concept of biological evolution kicks in.
I think the way her hands basically exploded while trying to open the hatch. It goes to show that her body doesn't really mean that much for her. She's able to give away her body in order to get to her objective.
She really would have thrown her life away, just to add one more piece to the puzzle, to add clarity to the scene.
And here we have the big dialogue between the Major and the Puppet Master. They are trying to find an answer to the question of their existence. There is some sort of a weird symbolism and a form of marriage, basically. Two souls and two bodies become one to form a new family and pass on their genes and their teachings and their faith to their offspring. Proving her existence is leaving something behind. That is also meaningful, is having a child. He wants to be a living being, and a living being needs to die and leave an offspring.
And not only just creating a copy of himself, because creating a copy would make him still vulnerable, because it doesn't adapt, and it's not flexible. That's, again, one of the main points of the show.
The ending, we see the Major in a new childlike body. She quotes, I think it's Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when you become a man, I put the ways of childhood behind.
Yeah, let it be known that this movie only quotes one time. One time.
Yeah, or Bucci, if you're gonna do quotes, do them in a reasonable, non-forced way. Oh, it's 1984. Yay, we feel smarter because we recognize the book that's actually famous and everybody knows it. Tells you everything that it wanted to tell you. It tells it in pitch perfect exposition, world building, characters, pretty much everything you can ask from anything. It's a damn masterpiece, and I think we've shown at least part of its greatness.
I expected at least one more hour actually showing interactions or something like that, some higher level implications.
There are enough implications of higher authority.
I'm talking about the fact that once you figure out what the show is about, that's pretty much it.
Maybe the Puppet Master in of itself wasn't that big of an entity. He was just a program. The way that the movie presented it didn't make it seem like it was a big deal. You would think that the merging would be something so monumental, that it would be something so catastrophic, so redefining. The very fact that nothing really different happened, to me, I thought that was anticlimactic. I just basically saw the entire movie as just being that allegory to life, and that, will still change. I simplified the whole movie. The movie can be as simple or as complicated as we want it to be, because that is what life is. And I know I'm being pretentious when I'm saying this, but essentially that's how the movie was designed. It was short. If it was any longer, it would need to be more than that. But yeah, that's my impression of it.
Is that it?
Unless we want to give our score or something.
Score 9.5 out of 10, or 10 out of 10. Fuck it. There's absolutely nothing I can say that I didn't absolutely love in this movie, and everything was pitch perfect.
What would you recommend along the same lines of it?
Alongside the same or similar lines, most definitely Ergo Proxy, Serial Experiments Elaine, Sireno Moribito for a very interesting motherly female character. For more existential anime, I think that Neon Genesis and High Bande Remne are also close in that department.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. I would have wanted it to be more. It just takes some ideas and puts them in a really good setting that explains it really well. And the direction is awesome. But other than that, I don't know, it's not that much, and it may be confusing for a casual viewer, and I certainly don't like that. I really think that a show shouldn't be confusing at the first watch.
I would give this a 8.75 out of 10. The only flaws with it is the fact that it wasn't as intricate as it probably could have been. I mean, the thing is, I kind of prefer Lane to the Ghost in the Shell experience, because with Lane, you have more outlets of society creeping in. You have a main character who's actually just pure human. You can relate to her a bit more in her growth and development. Plus, it was about actual internet and took place in modern time. Another TV show that did the same thing was Zegapane, because Zegapane first started off being very light and very fluffy to the point you would actually think it was a stupid show. But then it turns its head on itself. It's very subversive. If nothing else, Ghost in the Shell is a prime example of how to tell something complicated without overstretching credibility. Urobuchi uses concepts for the sake of intrigue, but he doesn't necessarily show their place in a human context. He did this with Gargantia. He used these for spicy plot flavors, where Ghost in the Shell proves that a plot is only a means to connect ideas and connect characters' place in life. Ghost in the Shell's weakest aspect was the plot in of itself, because it's very political. Not too many people I know like politically oriented plots for the sake of relishing in. As a thriller, or even as a mystery, it wasn't necessarily the most engaging or revelatory. But it did prove that you can use all of these simple ideas to make an interweaved portrait of something greater than the sum of its parts. This just proves that art does not need to be fancy or over the top. It can be something very grounded. It can be something minimalistic and get the job done, if not more. So, if art is timeless, Ghost in the Shell proves that some things won't be easily solved anytime soon. The experience of Ghost in the Shell probably won't stay with me as long as most people, but the techniques and its directing and its addition to anime history and adding to all the later works we get in the 2000s, I definitely think it's a masterpiece in that regard.